Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Space Wizards Movie Reviews, Episode 3. I've decided to watch Nausicaa Valley of the Wind. This is a Studio Ghibli film, Hayao Miyazaki. This is number 2 film that he's actually done. 1984 is the year that they did this movie. I'm not entirely sure if they did the American voice acting at the same time. I'm not entirely sure about that. But the American voice actors that I most notably realized were there were Uma Thurman and Patrick Stewart. Fantastic choices. They really depicted the roles that they had very well, very believable. Now, Nausicaa Valley of the Wind, whew, man, this is actually a pretty long movie, but it's really good. Right off the bat, this main story goes off and talks about how the pollution has caused the downfall of man, and there's only pockets of civilization left. This is a story that we now hear a lot in anime, but since the year was for this one, and there was a manga based off this, unfortunately I haven't read anything about it, I'd say this is the first real influence of that. So, that being said, they have a lot of really interesting artwork to depict their style of post-apocalyptic world. They use a lot of different, I'd say different art style elements to depict different nations within the story. I really liked how they had knights in full-on armor with swords and guns. They had guys that looked like they were from more of a desert area, so their robes, they wore robes and they wore cloth masks instead of gas masks, which everyone else wore, to protect themselves from the pollution. There's a lot of very pretty, beautiful landscape scenes. They really were trying to show off in the theaters how beautiful they can make these landscapes. And the landscapes aren't the only thing. There's a lot of very interesting creatures that they've decided to depict, mostly insects, but the attention to detail of these insects is insane. One thing I will note is in one of the first scenes, they have a very large creature that looks like the world's largest tick, and it's called an ohm. I'm not trying to offend anybody who loves this movie, but that's what it looks like to me. The art style in the very beginning of an ohm turning around looked like something out of Monty Python. I didn't see that art style used again to depict an ohm throughout the rest of the movie, but in just that beginning scene, I just gave myself a little chuckle. So the subtitles are honestly better than the spoken word for the English version, at least. I'd love to put subtitles compared to the dub, because there's always some difference that they decided to put in, some change. One of the biggest changes I noticed was in the written version, they call it the Sea of Decay. And in the spoken version, they call it the Toxic Jungle.
Past since the collapse of industrialized civilization, a toxic jungle now spreads, threatening the survival of the last of the...
Arguably, I prefer the written version over Toxic Jungle, but again, personal preference. Just putting a pin in that. Now, this movie was made in the 80s, so the music is very synth-heavy, which was kind of comical during some of the scenes, but that's, again, this is my first time watching this movie, and I am a cynical kind of guy, but it was appropriate for the time of the movie. But don't worry, you're going to hear a lot of crazy synth pop when people are running around screaming. It's a very positive message in this movie. It's extremely positive, actually. It's pro-conservation, protect wildlife, protect the rainforest. It even is actually sponsored by the World Wildlife Foundation. I mean, that's at least what it said at the beginning of the film, which is pretty awesome, actually. But it doesn't shy away from death. One fair warning, don't show this movie to your kids. This movie doesn't shy away from being pretty violent, so just make sure that you don't show your kids this movie and expect everything to be all okay. It's actually, a lot of people die. I'm not gonna lie. A lot of people die when you watch this movie and you realize it, and it's pretty dark in that sense. But I guess it's trying to really get the point across. So overall, I'd say watch this movie if you're a Studio Ghibli fan. If you're a fan of classic anime of this style, definitely watch it. I will say that it is definitely more of a shoujo style, so it's very girl friendly. I mean, the main protagonist is a girl, Nausicaa is a princess. I mean, it fits into that category, but it's a beautiful film, and I think everybody will enjoy it. So I'll definitely give this movie a watch. If it's anime isn't your thing, don't have to watch it. But if you're a big fan of the studio, it's definitely a really good idea. So this is going to be Space Wizard signing off with my third movie review. And by the way, I've had a really long night. I have decided not to do my hair, and I'm not wearing any pants.